guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we are going to be reviewing the Tynee Ultra X Pro. First thing, as you can see, it has a very elegant and premium look. If I turn it around, it looks quite similar to the OG boosted board with the logo placement, the deck design, and the grip tape. The Tynee Ultra Pro will come at a price at $899. For the class that this board is in, that is a phenomenal price. It's already a good head start for what this board is going to offer. Starting off with the dimensions, this board is fairly mid-sized, coming at 38.5 inches in length, 13.38 inches in width, and 6.1 inches in height. The weight of this board will be around 22.8 pounds. 22 pounds is actually on the lighter end because a lot of these boards that are around $1,000 weigh around 24 to 26 pounds. When I do carry this board around, it is slightly lighter. If you do want a slightly lighter board, this is a really good option. If we just turn the board around, this deck is made up of bamboo and fiberglass. And as you can see, just the thickness of that deck, it is a solid deck. The flexiness on this deck is also phenomenal. There's a lot of skateboard decks out there. When you jump on it, it does sound a little cranky. When you jump on this deck, it really feels very smooth and there's not a lot of rebound, so it doesn't really throw you off. So it does absorb those bumps really well, especially at those higher top end speeds. And then if we just turn the board around, we could have a nice look at the grip tape, and it is using a foam grip tape. Now, some advantages of using foam grip tape is that it dampens a lot of vibrations for your feet, especially if you are a commuter in a city that has a lot of bad roads. It will absorb it and it feels so much better with foam grip tape. If you look at it, it's a very flat profile. There's not much concave to it. Your foot placement is very calm. It's not really putting too much pressure on your heels and toes. If you are a straight line commuter, this deck is a really good option for you. These are a 9.5 inch forged reverse kingpin truck. This is by far one of the widest trucks I have ever heard or seen for a longboard like this. Most boards that come in this class are around 8 inches, maybe rarely about 9 inches, but 9.5 inches is just mind-blowing. If you even did go into a pothole, most of the board won't even sink into it because you just have that whole width of the truck, so the board will just eat up that pothole and just keep going. So you feel super safe and super comfortable with these really wide trucks. The bushings Tynee is using is 95A barrel. Not my favorite bushings, I'll be very honest. They aren't responsive enough in my opinion. For carving on this board, it is fair. I wouldn't say it's super carvy, but for straight line and top speed, these trucks are very stable. If you are a beginner rider, you could grow onto this board very easily for these wide trucks. Looking at the wheels, Tynee is using a clone boosted 105 by 65 millimeter urethane wheel. These wheels are a 72A durometer. Tynee mentions on their website how they copied the formula from boosted. So it says 65 millimeters. However, the contact patch is smaller. That's not even a problem because when I do ride with these wheels, you have endless grip. You have a lot of confidence riding with these wheels. I would say that these boosted clone wheels do have better grip than what the cloud wheel offers. Now, if you would like, Tynee does also offer an AT kit. Since these trucks are so wide, you could actually put 6-inch tires on this board and rock those AT wheels. However, in my opinion, I do prefer the street wheels, especially on a board like this. It just feels more fun and pure. I feel like the AT wheels would be more perfect for an actual AT longboard deck. Anyways, moving on to the battery, Tynee is using a 14S2P 504 watt-hour battery using Samsung 50S cells. When this board first did come out, it was using a 423 watt-hour that was using Molicel P42A cells and have high discharge. However, most of these boards these days aren't even pushing to its max power. Using a Samsung 50S cell wouldn't make much of a difference. Plus, the Samsung 50S cell does have a higher capacity than the Molicel. With the 423 watt-hour battery, I would actually get around 10 to 13 miles range in the winter around higher top end speeds, which isn't that great. So with a 504 watt-hour battery, you will be getting around 15 to 20 miles of range. If you look at these motors are insanely huge. If I take my hand and put it in a fist, you could just see just how large these motors are. These motors are a 3000 watt 6063 belt motors. The ESC is a hobby wing, which is pushing around 50 amps of continuous power and 80 amps of peak power. So realistically, with the motors you got, they are pushing around 1,470 watts for each motor and a total power around 3,000 watts continuous. That is a lot of power that you are getting out of this board. Tynee does offer a variety of modes on the remote, but the top speed when you first get this board is around 31 miles per hour. However, if you do go on the app, which is called Tuya Smart, you could unlock the true top speed of this board. Like I mentioned, with that 14S battery, you will be pushing a top speed around 37 miles per hour. Be very careful and very mindful. When I tested out this board and hit around those top end speeds, I felt very confident on the road, which is a very good sign because there are some boards out there that will have too much rebound when you hit a pothole, which would kind of fling your body up as you hit it, but this deck would just eat up those potholes, which I find as a huge plus. Now, if you're thinking about the IP rating of this board, I wouldn't recommend riding it in the rain. Number one, just because Tynee is using a foam padding here for the enclosure of the battery and the ESC. I'm not a big fan of the foam padding, so if Tynee could change it to a silicone padding, it would be more resistant to water because water can't absorb into silicone. I do like how Tynee added a rubber cover around the power button, which is a very smart move because a lot of boards back in the days would get easily water damaged, especially the power button, because water could seep in very easily. So that's a nice touch as well. If you were wondering where the charging port is, it is actually right over here, and the way Tynee has designed the charging port is very minimalistic and it's very smooth and discreet. Charge time with this board is quite fair, around 3 to 5 hours. It is using a 2-amp charger, which is kind of a slow charger. However, on the good side, your battery doesn't have to deal with too much stress because a higher amp charger does load more stress on those cells. And lastly, with the warranty of this Tynee board, the warranty actually used to be around 6 months of warranty, which is quite fair. However, now Tynee has made this board officially 12 months of warranty. So that is a whole year of warranty. I like the fact that they did that. It pretty much shows that they are confident in their product. Anyways guys, I hope you did enjoy this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Like I have mentioned in my other videos, I will be doing a giveaway around 2,000 subs, and other than that, I will see you guys next time.